girlfriends. Welcome to another episode of the Girlfriends and Goals podcast. We're your hosts, Miosha
and Samaria.
This podcast is a space where we'll talk about friendships, life goals, a little bit of pop culture, and all things womanhood.
All right, guys. So today we have a guest on the podcast, and I'm going to introduce her before we do our girlfriend check-in segment. So we have Marlissa Monique. If you are in the Atlanta area and you need an MUA, she's definitely the one to call. And she also has her new lash line called Sonique Lashes, which if you go to our Instagram, you will see me with them on in our last photo shoot. But yeah, we just want to welcome you, Marlissa. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, ladies. I'm so super excited. I'm honored that you guys asked me to do this.
Oh, of course.
Yes. We're excited as well.
Yay. Yeah, absolutely. So we'll go ahead and get into our first segment called Girlfriend Check-In. And today's question is, what's something that you glad that you tried but would never do again? And Marlissa, since you're our guest, we'll go ahead and let you kick it off.
So let me tell you about the time I decided to try oysters for the first time. So usually people get them prepared different ways. And we got them, they were raw. They weren't steamed or smoked. So me not knowing, it's like, oh, put a little hot sauce on it, squeeze a little lemon on it and go for it. But when I tell you, that is something I will never, I'm glad I tried it because, it tasted like I was eating something from the bottom of the ocean. It was the most ocean water tasting-ish stuff ever. And then I'm sitting here, it was like a whole table of us. So I'm sitting here so embarrassed because I wanted to puke. To be honest with you, I wanted it to come right back up. But I was trying to be grown. So I'm like, and my insides was like, girl, if you don't excuse yourself from this table and go. So I will never try it again. Kudos to those who eat oysters. I know it's an aphrodisiac. I get it. I'll find other ways. I'm good.
I feel like if you're trying oysters for the first time, you have to start cooked, either grilled or fried, or the oysters Rockefeller, where they put all the sauce, the butter, the crackers.
It was
Have you tried oysters, Miosha? I haven't.
I have tried them raw once, but it's not my thing. I will eat them cooked, very well done.
I heard that. Miosha, what's your thing that you've tried and you're glad that you tried it but would never try again?
So the thing that I have tried that I'm pretty sure I'm good with never doing it again is indulging in ganja in Jamaica.
Really?
Yeah. So I got married in Jamaica a few years ago, and it was kind of a while in Rome, let's just try it out type of thing. And yeah, apparently their stuff is different. I'm not sure because I don't partake in this at home usually, but let's just say after that experience, I'm just good with not trying it again. So, hey, like Marlissa said, kudos to the people who indulge. That's their thing. But I'm glad I tried it. I did it once. It's just not my jam.
Wow. So I think my thing is not as exciting. Well, maybe it is, but I love roller coasters a lot. I love theme parks. And the one ride that I had never gotten on at Six Flags was acrophobia, because it just looks so crazy. It's like this big circle and they take you all the way up and then just drop you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So one day my friend and I decided, we're going to try this. And we were at Six Flags with my aunt and my little cousin. And so we stand in this line, we get there, and they start taking us up slowly. And like, it's the worst because it goes up so slow that you have all this time to think about, why did I get on this ride? Like, I was way better on the ground. Why would I even try this? And then like out of nowhere, you just drop. It was probably the scariest feeling ever. But, I got through it. When we got to the end, my aunt and my little cousin literally ran up to us and were like, oh, thank you, Jesus. They got through it. They got through it. And I was like, can y'all not embarrass us? Like, why? So yeah, never trying that again, but glad I did.
That ride, I think, so if it's the one that goes straight up with the cables and then it just drops you and your feet are dangling loose, isn't that the ride that like a girl, her legs got chopped off on?
No, so I heard that after I decided to try it, but yes, that is the one.
Maybe it wasn't the Atlanta Six Flags. I think it was New Jersey or somewhere in the Midwest. But after I heard that story, I would never get on that type of ride again. Ever.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. You're welcome. Do not recommend, really, because it's so short. You don't even get the like hills and the bumps and the stuff that you get on other rides. It's just a straight drop.
I love roller coasters. So that's one of the ones I would never do. It's almost like bungee jumping.
Mm-hmm. I might try bungee jumping. Yeah, I know. I want to, but I would probably punk out when I get there. But I do want to.
So you're a little daredevil.
I want to be like inside. It's there. The daredevil is there, but then like the sense comes once I'm in the moment.
Yeah, I'd be hyped up like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this, and then in the moment they'd have to push me off. I don't think I'd jump.
I don't like to think negative, but I think my mind would be like, what if this cord snaps? I'll be the one person that it snaps on. Yeah, see, that's why I just look at other people and be like, that was dope.
Right. Good job.
Right. Good job.
Oh man. All right. So we're going to go ahead and ease into our topic for this week. And this topic came up because, as we all know, as women, like society puts so much pressure on us. And one of the ways that it puts pressure on us is with marriage, right? So if you're a certain age and you're not married yet, people start to point the finger and start talking about you, saying, oh, there must be something wrong with her. Like it's always the woman's fault. It's never anybody else's fault. It's always the woman. So the reason why we have Marlissa on is because she got married at 41. And we thought she would be the perfect person to speak to that experience of, hey, I got married later on in life, and here's how it was for me. So just to get into it, Marlissa, I'll ask you first, for the sake of this conversation, what age range do you think like society considers conventional marriage age?
So to me, conventional, based on what I know from just dating and stuff, anywhere between 28 and 35. That's when it's like you're out of college, you've probably gotten your job, you're getting established. By then it's marriage, it's time for kids. You still like in your youthful stage, but you're getting into your I'm almost that mature stage. So yeah, I think like 20, well, actually I would say like 27. 27 was when it started popping in the head, like, and everybody be like, well, where your friend at? What you got going on? Oh, okay, because you think about when you graduate college, you think about what age you are. And then if you continue your education or if you do some certifications, that's usually like maybe 3, 4, continue, depending on the school, how many years it takes you to really get to where you want to be in your career. And once you do that as women, once we get that, we're kind of good because we're like 20 steps ahead of men. I don't care what nobody say. We think ahead of them. So we're more so mature, like mature, and like our maturity, we're more mature, put it that way. We're more mature. So I think like 27 is when you start getting that itch and you looking around, because then you looking like, I'm about to be 30 in 3 years. It's about that time, you be, looking. And then, the older, like I think, too, you have to look at as a woman, if you're trying to have children, they tell you start to become high risk. So that's where that 34 comes in, where you just like, when you get around that age, it starts to get you get pressured to like, do you want to freeze your eggs? Do you want to, have you thought about it? I mean, I got it all the time, trust me. And it wasn't fun, but it was more so just knowing your worth. We'll talk about that later, but it's more about knowing your worth.
Okay. Yes. And I would agree. I think 27 to 35-ish is that like kind of nice age where you've done enough for yourself. And it's like, okay, people are expecting you at that time to like settle down. I remember hearing this one lady, I think she was about 34, and she got an opportunity to live in, was it Dubai? It was somewhere like out of the US. And she got that opportunity, and someone actually said to her, it was a man, and he was like, oh, I don't think this is the time in your life where you need to be exploring. I think it's time for you to like settle down. And I remember that, like, I'll always remember that, because I'm like, who are you to say, like, are you settled down? Are you passing up on opportunities to live outside of here? You know?
No.
Right. Probably not. But yeah, I would
Wow.
agree with the 27.
Who said her husband ain't in Dubai?
I'm saying.
Let's go.
You know, exactly.
So I'm going to say a little bit younger. I guess
Okay.
I'll be the odd one out. And I'm going to go with starting at age 25. And especially if you maybe are already dating someone or have been dating someone from college, assuming you just got like a 4-year degree. And yes, you still may be earlier on in your career, but I think if you're already dating someone or seriously dating someone, that pressure can start even earlier, around 25, 26, assuming people are like, oh yeah, you may take a year or two to plan a wedding. It just depends. And when I think conventional age, I capped it at 31 because I feel like up until about 30, 31, people are somewhat pressuring you, but not full on like, oh, it's too late or like, what's wrong? So that's why I said 25 to 31. Not saying I think that that's conventional, but I just think after 31, people are really like, well, what's going on? And that's when the questions really start.
Right.
And
So,
go ahead.
No, keep going.
I was gonna say, things have changed so much. So like in this day and age, I feel like 31 even is kind of young, you know, like people are still like getting themselves together. They might be changing careers and getting into what they actually want to do. So I think it's so crazy how like things have changed from say the generation before us, where it was like, oh yeah, like get married at like 18, 19, you know, versus now where we're like, at 30, okay, I'm good. Maybe like start looking now or something like that. So yeah, things change. So it's just ridiculous when the older generation is like hounding people. And it's like, girl, we have options in this day and age, you know?
So, Samira, you mentioned that things have changed and evolved, but I would still say that there is a certain viewpoint and way that society does treat women who don't get married in that conventional time. And so, Marlissa, you kind of alluded to that on the first question, but share a little bit more your thoughts around how society views people or any experiences that you may have had around people treating you different because you weren't married during that conventional time.
Okay, let me go ahead and give y'all this good old cup of tea.
Oh, girl, do it.
So, I know for me personally, when it came to dating, first off, I was very, very, very like protective of who I brought around certain people. Only because like when people think you're amazing, when they think you got it together, you're a woman of God, you know, you work hard, you're educated, you don't have any kids, you know, you're the perfect person for someone. But I can tell you personally, a lot of it had to do with the guys, the type of guy you were dating, or the type of guy you looked for when you were, you know, in that stage of my life. The type of guy that I wanted is not the kind of guy that I married. Okay, we'll just say that my husband is the complete opposite of everything I thought I wanted, but he was everything that I needed, and I didn't know that. And I think your mindset has to change, because if you're focused on how they look, how tall they are, where they work at, what school did they go to, what kind of car do they drive, where do they hang out at? Do they be at the hottest parties in the city? Like when you start thinking about all those things, it actually affects who you date, and it actually affects like that life, you know, what you expect to have with someone. It actually affects that. And then like, you know, people will start to look at the guy. They may be like, oh, he's handsome, but you don't really know he's handsome, but he ain't got no job. He, you know, he's still in school, or his lights just got cut off. So it ain't like, how can he provide for me? I mean, you can go so deep when you start looking at the whys of, you know, why you're not married, what's wrong with you, or the fact that you're older and you don't have kids yet. Like at one point I thought, and it was funny, I think I posted this on Facebook, a guy actually offended me because he was like, do you have any kids? And I was like, no. And it was like a turnoff for him. And I was like, oh, I gotta be a baby mama to be winning out here in these streets. But his question was, I mean, he basically was like, he has had 2 kids already. So he was looking for someone who already had kids. Mm-hmm. So he felt like it was too much pressure to marry someone who doesn't have kids. And then on top of that, he was like, something wrong with you. Because the fact that you ain't got no kids right now, something wrong with you. Like literally told me something was wrong with me. And when I say I was offended, I was just like, listen, I have heard a lot of things. I've had men tell me they were intimidated by me. I have had men say that I was too godly for them. I pray too much. I'm at church too much, that kind of thing. And to tell me that I needed to have some kids, I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I got morals and I want to wait till I'm married and have them with my husband. I'm sorry, but I just think like the way it's viewed is just the pressures of you got to have it together. And they want you to be with somebody who looks right for you, not who fits you, but who looks right for you. And those are the ones that honestly were probably the worst relationships I think I've ever had.
Yes, we say that all the time here. We're like, I'm the one who's going to be in this. So, you might think this person looks right for me or is right for me, but if they're not, you're not going to be at my house when I'm like miserable,
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Miosha, what do you think? Like, how do you think people, or how have you seen people in your life get treated because they didn't get married at that time?
Yeah, definitely some of what Marlissa said. It's like something's wrong with the woman. Or I noticed that I see mostly women getting treated a certain way or judged or pressured. I haven't seen it as much for men unless they've been in a serious relationship with one particular woman for a long time and everyone's like, all right, when's this wedding going to happen? But if they're just single with no love interest, I haven't seen the men be pressured or ask certain questions. And even for the women, it's always about, well, what are you going to do about it? And it's always weird to me because it's like they expect for women to be the gatekeepers, as if we're in control of if the marriage proposal even happens, which we've talked about on this podcast. We understand that some women are out here proposing to men, but we do not support that over here. But yeah, like women aren't necessarily the gatekeepers of that process. It's definitely both parties, the man and the woman. And even though the woman may say yes or no, it's still the guy who's asking. So even if you've been dating someone for a while, it's always strange to me when the woman is being approached like, well, when are y'all going to get married? If she's not engaged yet, are you really expecting her to ask herself or ask him? Like, what is this?
Well, you got insight when they ask you that. When are y'all getting married? Like y'all talked about it already.
It may be, but I'd say maybe most women, unless you're super close to them, like I would maybe tell some Samaria, like, oh yeah, my husband, my boyfriend and I may have had that conversation, but I wouldn't necessarily be telling that to like aunties and this person, because they may just go open their mouth and be like, oh yeah, Miosha said that y'all were talking about marriage and he could be planning this really beautiful proposal. And now he feels unnecessary pressure knowing that everyone's all up in your business. So yeah, I just think it's a lot of pressure on the women, and it's always, well, what's wrong with you? What are you not doing? Are you not being too open? And I'll share a little bit more of that later as we progress through the podcast, but it's usually mostly on the women.
Well, yeah. Oh, go ahead, Marlissa.
I think that guys don't get that because usually, like if it's a mom or like a parent or auntie, they know you ain't got it together. That's why they asked you. They know you ain't making, you're not where you want to be in your career, or they know you still playing out here. They know you're not ready, so they're not going to ask you. But I'm telling you, it's when it's a woman or, a young lady, with no matter the age, when you got it together and you present yourself as I am ready, that's where you get the question. Because if you have people that'll start to admire you and then be like, why are you single? What, what's wrong with you? You're beautiful. You're such an amazing, you be sitting there looking, I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm trying to figure out the same thing. You're trying to figure out.
And I guess I wonder, like, what are they really expecting for you to say? Like, well, because these men ain't really got their stuff together, or they're still trying to play.
The last one, so I ain't ready. I'm still crazy. I'm going through therapy right now. I can't. They want you to be crazy or something.
Mm-hmm. They want you to admit that you're the reason.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna ask where that pressure comes from. So, like, is it coming more so from other women, like older women, or is it like men who are putting the pressure, like in real life, who would ask more, like, oh, why are you single, or why are you this, why are you not settled down?
I think it's more women, but if you have male friends, it's because your male friends are looking at you.
Oh, okay.
And we never think that. I've had that twice in my life. So like, hopefully he don't ever hear this podcast. But two of my male best friends, both of them, literally way like stages later in life, like confess I've always looked at you as this. And it was like, what? And I'm looking at them like brothers. So it was like, and I know all of your business. So as far as, us dating is totally out of the question. But then you have your friends around who see you guys interact. And like in a marriage, you want a friendship with your husband. So it's usually your friends that see you with your guy friend and be like, y'all will make a great couple. And then, you quick to be like, no, we're not like that. Like, it's not like that. We're just friends. But it's typically guys that are your friends that know you that ask those questions. And I think it's more so women that are in your family who, depending on like your family history, if you have a big family, because I have a huge family. So it's based on marriage, it's based on kids, it's based on all of those things. And that's pretty much, to me, that's where it comes from the most. And then, of course, if you talk about outside people, it's just because you're amazing. So they be like, girl, you're so cute. Why are you single? They just be enough.
That's funny. Yeah. So I was gonna ask you, like, what some like cliche advice that people give women who are single later in life, and I put later in quotes because it's like there really shouldn't be any like times. It should vary per person as it does. But yeah, what some like cliche advice that they think is helpful, but really isn't, that you've heard?
Well, I don't know. I can say a couple things. I don't know if this first one is like cliche advice, but that whole when don't tell a single person that, because we think every dude that we in love with we think all of them the one. So you can't say when you know. Stop saying that. I don't know if that's cliche advice, but stop saying that. Like, granted, when you are in a relationship and your hearts meet, and he is the one, you do know. But stop telling single people when because you can't really relate to that, because you think about the follow-up question is, well, how did you know he was the one? What did he do? What did he say? How did he make you feel? So then you go into this deep explanation of how you knew he was the one, but everybody don't get that. Everybody doesn't have that same story. So I think that is just crazy cliche. I hate when people say that. Like, at one point I used to be like, as soon as they would start saying, I think I would finish the sentence when, like, and they be like, yeah, when you know, girl. So you keep on pushing because God is going to send you. So you be sitting there like, oh, but then another thing was, you got to get out more. You got to go to, networking events. Go to the grocery store. You can meet your husband anywhere. Like, I am not about to be intentionally going to Kroger just to grab some roast for Sunday's dinner. I'm not doing that. So it's like you would always think like I'm already putting myself out there, enough for my comfort level. Some people you be like, now you be sitting in that house, you don't go nowhere. That's different. But when you are taking the steps to kind of get out there and meet people, telling me to go to do other things is, go hang out at cigar spots. All the men be there. They love you. You'd be surprised at stuff that I have been told. And I got some old school wisdom, long lines, deep in the country. You know, in my family, that'll be like, you ain't eating the right vegetables. What kind of vegetables do I need to eat? You need more Brussels sprouts and you need more.
What?
I don't know. Y'all look it up. I don't know what Brussels sprouts mean, but I have heard that a couple times. You ain't eating the right vegetables. And you got to eat the right fruit so you taste sweet.
That is hilarious. Oh man. I've definitely heard oh yeah, you just need to go out more. It's like I don't even want to be out. Like,
Okay.
you're gonna have to catch me when the once or twice a month that I'm out here, because I'm not about to be going. You know how much parking is in Atlanta at some places to just be going out, like, oh, I hope I'm seen today. There's this guy who made a video on I think it was Instagram, and he was like, how to get noticed by men when you go out, go with only like one friend. And it's like, if I'm about to go out and I want to hang out with my friends who I haven't seen in a while, you think I'm gonna be like, oh no, girl, stay at home because I can only go with one of you so that I get noticed, so that I can show up and not get noticed by anybody. And then here I go, only have one friend the whole night, and still ain't nobody talk to me. Like, there's no like formula, and I think people try to make it seem like it is.
Yeah, there's no formula. And then you gotta look at, we travel in packs. And I have heard that before because it's too many to choose from. So that's why people say go with smaller crowds. Because think about it, if you meet a handsome guy, all of y'all are looking like, oh, hey, but he'll scan the group and pick who he wants, that kind of thing. So that's why they say go with, I was curious to see how he put that, because I've heard that before. Like, don't travel with a large group. Because if you think about, if a guy's gonna buy you a drink, he ain't buying all y'all a drink. He's not gonna, tell the waitress, hey, can you give her my business card? Because you with a, that'll all of a sudden the girls is like, who did it? Y'all see him, he over there, becomes a discussion. So it's funny because our friends, we all have friends like this, but we do it unconsciously. We don't think it's like a bad thing, but I do think, yeah, you should kind of minimize the number. That way, they say the ratio is higher. Probability. 1 out of 3, which one you gonna pick? A, B, or C?
Yeah. So he said that, and then he was like, oh, they might be intimidated to come to you if it's a whole bunch of you. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. But yeah, I've heard the go out more. I've heard that. And then there's always like, oh, well, maybe you should reconsider. Like, maybe what you want is like too much. Like, maybe you're doing the most, and maybe you're too picky. And it's like, I don't think it's bad to like just look at all the things that you have and say, okay, this is something I could compromise on. This is something I can't compromise on. I don't think there's anything wrong with like analyzing, but it seems like sometimes they want you to like shrink yourself just so you could be partnered. And I don't like that.
No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say I've heard that most common.
The reconsider your options.
Yeah, like, hey, like, maybe you're expecting too much. What are you doing or not doing? Once again, it's kind of like mostly put back on the woman of, oh, you're not going out enough. Oh, are you expecting too much as far as like how much he should make? Or, hey, you should be making yourself more available. It's just always something that you should be doing or tweaking to be the right thing or the right fit at the right time.
Yeah. You said you were too picky?
Yeah, that's what I used to get. Girl, you too picky. You want too much. No, I don't. I don't. There's this big shiny tree with apples on it. He can climb up there and get me.
Right. You don't want enough. How about that?
There you go. Like, if you want to shake the tree and get the ones that fall on the bottom, then go for it. But you're going to climb up here and get me off of here.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, okay, say you lower what you expect or what you want. Okay, like 10, 15 years into it, then what?
Right.
I mean, it's more about longevity and what's going to make sense and work for you. And it may make sense just to stay single longer until you get that. Versus like, oh, I kind of got what I wanted, but you know what? Nah, never mind. I'm good.
Yeah. So Marlissa, you mentioned this earlier, so I don't know if you have specifics, but like, what are the things that you looked for when you were younger that like around the time that you met your spouse, you were like, I see a change in what I wanted versus what I want now?
Yeah. I was it's my husband. He ain't gonna know about this podcast. No, so my thing, I love tall guys. So he had to be 6'4" and above. I think what I wanted was more physical. It wasn't the characteristics and the traits that would carry you into a forever with someone. It was, he had to be 6'5". He had to have went to a HBCU. He has to have a job. He has to have his own place. Preferably no kids, but one is my limit because I don't have any kids. Oddly, all the guys I dated at one point either had 2 or 3. Go figure. You make exceptions for what you want to make exceptions for, but that's a whole nother topic. But mine was just more physical. Like I wanted them to get along with my friends because I felt like my friendships were so important at the time. And then I'm also in a sorority. So like we did so much together that I needed you to like them and I needed them to like you, because if they didn't like you, like this ain't gonna work. It's gonna be uncomfortable. And I want my friends to like my man. So it was like, I wanted you to get along with my friends. I wanted you to be family oriented. And that's something that I still wanted. But I know my family's big. We do family reunions every year. So I didn't want to date somebody that would always be like, I can't go. I ain't gonna be able to make it. I wanted my man to be able to show up for me. Oddly, I dated guys who disappointed me all the time. So, if you look at the kind of compare, I have someone now who he didn't just show up, he took over. So it was like, he made me feel safe in a way where disappointment wasn't even a word anymore. Like I could never even think of being disappointed by him. And it's just because of who he is as a person. I didn't have to state that, I said what I wanted initially, and then he kind of took it and was like, okay, I know what I got to do. But I wanted you to go to church with me. You had to go to church. You couldn't be someone who told me that, I have a relationship with the Lord. And I pray, but I don't really do church, because I was really heavy in church. So it's like, no, that's not going to work. So I was just picky. I wanted you to fit this mold, but never once did I think about what I think about now, which is like, for our house, are you going to be a provider? Are you handy? Can you fix things? Like, I don't want to always have to pick up the phone and call Roto-Rooter or somebody. Like, can you go get the weeds out the yard? Like, I'm trying, like, I need somebody. I ultimately wanted somebody like my daddy. Like, I wanted somebody who loved like my daddy did, who took care of me the way my dad did, but not in the sense of like, being in, that way. But like, I wanted somebody strong who was, who stood up for themselves, regardless of whatever it was, who knew how to go get it. And I wanted the beautiful man. I wanted the man, just like they wanted somebody to look good. I wanted somebody to look good too. But, ultimately behind the scenes, it was like, you cute, but I ain't happy. You cute, but you stood me out. Or you cute, but you stood me up for the movies the other night. And here I am, looking crazy. So that's why I started to get super protective over who I brought around my friends and my family, because I started to feel embarrassed. I started to feel like, it's something wrong with me because of the guys I'm choosing. Not so much as like something wrong with me as as an individual. It was just, I'm choosing the wrong guys. It ain't, it's not them, it's me. I'm looking for the wrong things. And I will tell you guys something that probably is the best thing I've ever heard in relationships or when trying to date. I went to a conference in California. It was called Unstuck. And Devon Franklin spoke. It was Megan Good's husband. He spoke at the conference. So, me, I stood up and asked the question. Like, it was people that wanted to at my table, but I'm like, I'm finna ask. So I stood up and I basically, and he was answering those one-on-one questions. And so I told him how guys were always intimidated by me. No matter what it was, they would be like, I had a guy that came by my house and was like, you don't need me. I was like, what? Because I had just bought my first home. Literally, he told me, I met him out. I'm jumping around, but I met him out for coffee and ice cream. I didn't want him to come to my house. So when I finally got comfortable enough and I invited him over, he came in and the first thing he said was, you don't need me. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, you don't need me. And we stopped talking. Like, I think we probably had one more conversation. He let me know he made it home that night. And it was like,
wow.
That is so interesting. Like a house.
Well, because you got guys that's like, I'm supposed to, it's their pride. Like, I'm supposed to provide this for you. I'm supposed to.
You can go buy another house.
Right.
And then I'll have my house and then we'll have our house.
how about we have a rental property and a house? Like, come on, let's talk about growth. You know, so I stood up and I said, you know, men are often intimidated by me. You know, do I need to, and to what you said, Samari, do I need to like do less? Like, do I need to? He was like, first of all, don't ever dumb yourself down for no man. And he said, in the beginning of your relationship, tell a man, what you require. He's gonna leave then, or he's gonna leave later. So, you know, if you think about when you're dating, you some stuff you don't talk about because you're like, oh, it might be too soon, or I might scare him away. And Divine Franklin was like, if he's gonna leave, wouldn't you rather him leave now than 6 months or a year from now, and you decide to finally share this with him and he leaves in? So he said the right man will stay. So when you meet a man, regardless of what you have, or you don't want, because he was like, why you didn't want him to come over? I was like, I mean, I felt like he stayed in an apartment. You know, I didn't want him to, you know, I had just got a new car. I had just got a Lexus. So I'm like, I know he like this chick, you know, so I was trying to dumb myself down, you know, a little bit so he can get to know me first. And then, you know, all the other stuff will come. And he was like, no, out the gate, you tell them what you require. And then he said, don't be afraid, because what he said, they're intimidated by you, they're not the man for you, because the right man gonna stay. There's no wrong answers with the right man. Like there's nothing is wrong with the right man. So you know, the wrong man, if you said, he'd be like, well, you know, he ain't right. That's not the one that God has for you. But I promise you, that stuck with me. And when I got back to Atlanta, everything changed in my dating life.
Wow.
Everything. So I make a joke and I tell people I got unstuck.
Oh.
But it was real, like super real. Now, if y'all later, like sidebar, I can send y'all the conference because I recorded it on my phone. But it was very refreshing. And I promise you, that was probably the key that I needed. And had I had that years before, I think things would have been different. But, you know, I'm thinking I got to dress a certain way. I got to carry myself a certain way. I got to say the right things. No.
I wanted to ask you, and this is a question we don't have on the outline, but do you think that it was you getting older, or you just running into a bunch of duds who looked the part, but then didn't really align with you in terms of your values? Or do you think it was a combination of both that kind of changed your thought process and what you were looking for?
No, I think it was because I was older. And I, you know, I knew what I wanted. And then you have to think, and it's crazy to say this. I mean, you said you were how old when you got married?
27.
Okay. So, and I hope this doesn't offend you, but like, you know, when you're younger, you don't quite know what you want to do. You don't quite develop into who you're going to be. And I feel like somewhere in your 30s, a switch goes off, whether it's a man or a woman, and you can kind of shift. And I don't know if you guys have heard of relationships doing it where it's like, she changed, you ain't the same person that I, you know, met 10 years ago. And I think being older, I'm more set in who I am right now. Like this is me, you know, this is the person that I am. I'm not still trying to figure things out. I'm not still trying to decide if, you know, what career field, you know, I want to go into, or what business ventures I want to, you know, look into. It's like, I'm this person, this is me. And I think when you're younger, you're still trying to find yourself. You're still trying to figure out where you want to live at. You know, do I want to stay in Atlanta, you know, or do I want to move away? Or, you know, is this a profession I want, or do I want to go back to school? Like, I think when you're young, time to figure out what you really want to do. And when you get older, it's just, you know what you want, kind of like, you know, I knew the kind of man I wasn't gonna date. I would meet a guy and be like, nah, I dated you before, I'm good.
Yeah, I like that you said, oh, I'm setting the person that I am as a positive thing, because you hear so many people say it as a negative, like, oh, well, by the time they're this age, they're set in who they are. And it's like, yeah, but that could also be a good thing, because they're certain. And if you're certain, then that makes life possibly easier, you know? So yeah, I love that you said that as a positive.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, even with DeMarcus, I think he had dated, you know, he had his girls, he had the ones with the the bodies. You know, he had all that stuff he wanted, and it never, added up to what he wanted in a wife. So like that was the one thing he told me was, I prayed for you. Like everything that you came at me with, you thought I was gonna leave, but I didn't. And I did. I hit him with everything. He called me one night. It was like 12, maybe like 12:30, 1 o'clock. I was like old school. Do you know what time it is? Don't call me, like what you think? You about to get some? I was rough. Like I was rough. And he was like, girl, my bad. I just was thinking about you. I'll call you in the morning. And I'm in my mind like, he ain't gonna call me back. I know he like, this girl crazy. He called me in the morning. Like,
yeah. He wanted what he wanted.
Right. You thought you scared me away kind of thing. Like, and then he like, you want to go to breakfast? I'm like, oh, you still cool? You still want to talk to me?
That is too
yeah. But I mean, I promise y'all, I was so rough. And I even said that in my vows. I was so rough. But he knocked down every barrier, like every single one I threw his way. He knocked them down like a champ. Oh. And then a lot of people would be like, girl, you was doing the most. No, I wasn't. My sister was like, you would, if he chewed his food the wrong way, you was gonna, say you didn't like him. And I honestly, at one point, because everything was so seamless, like it was like, I didn't have to do nothing. It was just like, wow. I was like trying to find something wrong with him. Every single time I was looking for something, like, nah, it's in there. I'm just waiting. He gonna get me. He gonna get me at month 3. I know it's coming. I'm got my eye on you. I was waiting on him to do something wrong. And literally it was like, chill out. Like, girl, I want to be with you. What's wrong with you? And I was like, oh.
Oh man, that is so funny. Miosha, did you have any things that you feel like, oh, when you found your spouse, you realized, oh, I actually have changed, like the things I was looking for before, I'm not looking for now. Do you have any of those types of things?
You had kind of froze on my end for just a little bit, but I heard what you said. Okay. For me, I'd say when I was younger, so my situation is a little bit different in that I did meet my spouse when I was in my early 20s, but I didn't get married until my late 20s. I would say my early 20s, yes, one thing that did change was at that age, I didn't want to date or marry someone who had kids, but I found that dating during that time, I didn't run into many people who already had children. So it wasn't that big of a deal. In my late 20s and even now, if I were still dating, I don't think I would still feel the same way about that, just because more people do have children as they get older. But for the most part, when I got married, I was thinking about 10, 20 years from now, knowing that I'm going to evolve as a person. My husband's going to evolve. We're going to go through different life situations. And even as a young adult, I've kind of always had the mindset to kind of try to think for the future. And most of the things that are still the same today are our values and just making sure that we're aligned. And even as we kind of traverse through life together, that we can adjust as needed. Like Marlissa said, those physical things, it's going to fade. You can meet someone when you're young. You're probably not going to look the same when you're 55. And that's just a part of the journey of life. And yeah, I could say for the most part, I would say that I was looking for the same things that are as important to me now. But I will say that certain things like kids, I wasn't interested in dating someone with kids because I didn't have kids. So
yeah, so I'm the only unmarried person on the panel today, folks. But I will say that, so I'm late 20s, and I think I just didn't really think about it much in my early 20s. So as I've grown as a person, I've become more focused on like what I want. And so now I'm clear about, okay, who do I want beside me doing this? Like, if I want to live in this like other country, I need to be with someone who's flexible enough to do that and whose career might be flexible enough. That's just an example. Or, if you're someone who's like, oh, okay, I don't want children, then maybe don't get with the person who's like, let's have a honeymoon baby, So like, I think as I've grown as a person and realized what it is that I'm looking for out of life, it's become more clear what I would find acceptable in the person on my side, you know, doing this with me. So,
Oh,
yeah.
one thing that I did want to share is earlier, Melissa, we were talking about who gives that pressure when you're not married at a certain age. And so for me, I feel like I went through a similar pressure. So even though I was with someone and we were seriously dating, because we didn't get engaged or married when people thought that we should have, I was under a lot of pressure, which I thought was unnecessary because I never expressed to people like, oh, I'm ready to be married or proposed to as of yesterday, and he's not doing it. But I feel like there was a lot of pressure put on me during that like dating and engagement time period, even though I was with you know, my future husband at that point in time. And most of the pressure I got was from women, older women, extended friends, family members. And yeah, it's what was interesting to me is, you know, marriage is such a big deal. Marriage is sacred. And I've even had this conversation with Samaria, even once I got engaged, where I felt like everyone was so excited for the wedding. And I was over here thinking about what my actual marriage would be like. And so just during that process and just all the pressure, and I understand that it was coming from a good place. It was definitely not malicious. I just think people were excited for us. But if I myself as a young person in my late 20s am like, hey, I may not be ready to be married or mature or whatever at that point in time, you know, maybe you all should be thinking along those lines or thinking like, hey, maybe they're not progressing for whatever reason. And not to say that something was wrong. It's just people are going to move at their own time cadence. Like they're not going to just rush and get married because everyone else thinks that you should be doing it at that point in time. And I just remember telling Samaria, like, I'm thinking about what married life is going to be, what my marriage is going to be 10, 15 years from now. Like, I could honestly care less about this wedding day. And I'm not saying that like literally, but that's what I felt during like the pre-engagement and engagement wedding planning process. I was just trying to stay focused on like, what is the actual marriage going to be?
Well, you know, to add to that, I don't think people, well, I know from experience, it was more so about allowing a man to waste your years. So that's where more pressure kind of came in because it's like, okay, y'all been together for 3 years, what y'all waiting on? Like, you know, what are y'all doing? Because it, you know, from an older female perspective, like he's taking your years, so to speak. Like those years you could probably be dating other people. You're dating this one guy. So if you guys are still together after 3 years, y'all clearly want to be with each other. So what you waiting on? You know, that's kind of like how it used to be presented. And I think back then my longest relationship was with a guy for 4 years. And that was when I learned what surface level, you know, relationships were. Because
Really?
I mean, we grew like year 1, year 2, but we just kind of stayed in year 2 for year 3 and for year 4.
Wow.
And then I started thinking kind of like you, what would a marriage be like with him? Like I'm just with him, you know, and then, you know, he fine, but that's about it. You know what I mean? Like what would a marriage be like with him? You know, and
Yeah.
it wasn't even about pressuring him like, do you want to marry me? Because I'm like, if we don't stay like this, after we say I do, I don't want, this ain't the kind of marriage I want.
Okay.
And I started saying like, I'm not pressed to get married because when I do get married, I want it to be right. I don't want to just be able to say I'm married. I want to be able to tell you my marriage is the bomb. Like
Right.
my husband's so dope. Like I want to be able to tell you I waited, you know, and I got everything I prayed for kind of thing. I didn't want to just say I was married and then behind the scenes I'm like, girl, don't you do it because no, I don't have that same kind of advice. I cannot tell you nothing negative about being married. That is not my story.
Yeah. And I definitely get it from an older woman's perspective or even middle-aged, younger. I definitely understand it. I think for me, because of my age, that's why it was just so surprising. But I definitely understand like you don't want a person to waste your time. And I'd agree 3 years is a good minute. So.
Well, see, I had friends that were dating people for 7 and 9, 11.
What?
Don't tell it. I had a friend, I said, do not repeat that ever again. Like she used to always say, we've been together for 9 years. That's not a good thing.
How did she take that?
No, I talked to her on the side first. And
Oh, okay.
But I was like, stop doing that. That's not cute. Y'all been together for 9 years. That's a problem. And to this day, we laugh about it because she be like, I can't say it in front of Marley. No, you can't, because that's terrible. That's something ain't right. Y'all are missing some pieces if it's been 9 years. What y'all doing?
Yeah.
I'm even asking you, what y'all doing?
She said, that's not cute. Don't.
It's not. Like, think about it. What, 9 years? That's like you took my 20s. Like, you took my, what we doing?
Yes.
I could have been out here wilding out. You took my wild days. Like,
Yeah.
A whole decade. Oh,
right.
So what
when we were younger, it was cute to say that. Like, oh, we've been together 2 years. Okay.
Oh man. What would you say are like the perks of getting married later in life?
Oh God, it's great. It's so we don't have to work through all the things that you probably will work through when you're a little younger. Like, don't go out, don't be coming in at 2 in the morning, 4 in the morning. Like, what club you at? Like, it's, and I'm saying this from a few perspectives, because with me, I'll go out, but certain things I won't do. So if I'm dating a guy who does those things, I know that up front, I'm either going to accept it or I'm not going to accept it. But when you get older, you don't have to worry about you finna be, oh, Migos album dropping, I'm about to be at the what? Who is Migos? And why are you about to be at the album release party? Like, it's certain things you don't have to worry about. Like, you don't have to worry about like being, I don't know, for me, it's just being safe. Like, you're enjoying life at this point. So you don't have to worry about the nonsense of when you were younger. And I don't want to I don't want it to sound so negative, because some of the stuff when you're younger is fun and you can still do that when you're older, but it's more respectful when you're older. Because when you're younger, you're still figuring that out. You don't know that going out with your girls all the time might not be a good look because you're married. Not to say that you can't go out with your girls all the time, but there's limits to, what you do it tastefully. You don't just be out. I wouldn't dare come home at 3 or 4 in the morning now. Why? What I got to do? What? Like, seriously, what is going on at 3 or 4 that I'm still out and my husband's at home? Or vice versa. Why? And I don't care. I mean, even if you at a friend's house, it's just you're more respectful when you're older and you think about that person from a different perspective. For me, it's just not this. I don't know. It's not the same, because maybe I just dealt with some knuckleheads, but
that's okay. You're here to share your experience, so that's why you're here.
It's just more respectful. That's one of the big things I can say. And you don't have to say it. Like, it's almost like, why do I have to tell you that coming in the house? I shouldn't have to tell you that. And back then it was like, where you been? Oh, we went to the strip club. So if I, you and when you're younger, you don't. Well, for me, I didn't really say how I felt, because I felt like it would run them away. That was one of my biggest issues, was I didn't want to say the wrong thing and make them mad, and then they leave me. And I really like them. Oh my God, I like them so much. But now it's like, I'm not afraid to say anything to my husband and vice versa, as long as we talk to each other respectfully, but we communicate like about everything. And I think back when you're younger, you don't really say everything you mean, and when you do, it's a toxic relationship, because typically people start, butting heads and saying stuff they don't mean, or I'm out. And then as you go do the back and forth, we together 1 week, the next week we broke up, you on social media doing this, that, and the third. And even that, being older, you don't have to worry about social media stuff. At least that's my experience. Now I do, I don't know all men stuff, but you don't have to worry about social media stuff. And the times that we're living in right now, I'm so thankful I didn't grow up with social media. Oh, praise the holy listen. I don't think I could have done it, because like, you think about, everything comes home with you. There's no downtime. We had downtime when we were younger. Like, we dealt with something that was there. We left it there. We had an issue outside, it stayed outside. But now everything comes home with you. It's like, and then, you roll over, you on your phone, it's like right there in front of your face. So we don't have social media issues. I feel like that's a big thing. But I just think your lifestyle changes and you become more, I don't know if the right word is stable, but you just become more stable in your life where you don't want, it's certain things you just outgrew. You don't want to do those things anymore. And then now that you're married, you have someone you can do those things with.
Nice. I love that. And I think the last thing, just to get your perspective, is like, what advice would you give to like other women who are dealing with the stigmas that come with not being married at the conventional age? Like, how do you deal with society's judgment?
Do you mean like if from my perspective of being in my 40s?
Yeah. So like if there was another woman who was like, oh, I'm like in my 40s or, late 30s, and, I feel all this pressure, but I don't have anybody, like, how do I deal with that so that I'm mentally okay every day when I walk out my door?
Yeah. So I have a couple of my girlfriends who call me all the time for advice. I'm like, just because I'm married now, y'all, I ain't the queen of marital advice. But I can tell you, and I mentioned this earlier, was when you know your worth, you walk different. I don't care what nobody say. When you know what you come with, you know what you stand for, you know what you will deal with and what you won't deal with. You walk different, you think different, you act different, you carry yourself differently, and you choose differently. Because not just because a man chooses you, you have to choose him also. So my advice is and I'm gonna specifically say for you, Samari, because you are still single. Right now, enjoy being single. Do not let anybody put pressure on you to make you feel like being single is the worst thing in the world. Enjoy this, because you want to know why? When you get married, you ain't got this no more. Okay, you can't just leave when you want to leave. You can't just go out when you want to go out. You can't just plan a trip and not tell nobody, or spend a certain amount of money and not like, this my money. No, this is our money. Like, things change. So enjoy being single. I tell people all the time, be cute for yourself, get your hair done for yourself, get your nails done for yourself, pamper yourself. Make sure you love you, because that way when somebody else comes along and they want to love you or say they love you and it don't work out, they're not taking your love. They're not taking nothing from you that you already have for yourself. So like, I'm telling you, after that conference, I enjoyed my life so much. I wish, I had a good time. And I was proud of every single thing, every moment, every conversation, every date I turned down, every guy said, no, this is not going to work. I was proud of myself because I knew what I wanted. I knew my worth. I knew I was a great woman. I knew I was a woman with no kids for a reason. I knew I wanted to wait for my husband to have kids. I knew it was possible. I prayed for him. I knew the type of dynamics I wanted. I knew the type of friendship I wanted with him. And when you single, I think you be so worried about, finding somebody, or I don't have nobody, or, where he at, but enjoy before he come. Because when he come, it's going to change. Everything changes, and it doesn't change for the worse. It gets so much better. But a lot of things that you used to do, like as a single woman, you don't do anymore. When you eat, he eat. You don't just go get yourself, no, I'm going to get me some Chick-fil-A. I'll be right back. No, I'm about to go run to Chick-fil-A. Would you like something? Life changes. And if you marry someone or be with someone who has a child, you're now a mom. Like, you have motherly duties. And I do. I mean, I have a bonus son who's the sweetest thing ever. And it really has helped me, because now I feel like I'm even more ready to become a mom, because I've had all this time to care for him. And I've pretty much gotten a taste of what it will be like, if I do have a child, or when I do have a child. So I would just say, advice to single people: enjoy being single, be pretty, pamper yourself, love yourself, go buy some new lip gloss every now and then, go get you a new dress, a new shirt. I know we're in a pandemic, or we dealing with this social, whatever we in, exercise, do you, because he's going to be attracted to that.
Yes.
I love that. That's so true. Like, I often look back at my time before I got married, and during that time when everyone was pressuring me, like, whoa, why are you not getting engaged yet? I'm like, I'm enjoying life. Like, I like having a person, but I like being single, having my own place, just getting life experience. you know, doing the things that I want to do before that next chapter, knowing that life will never be the same. But it's nice, like once you've kind of crossed over, to be able to look back and have those memories, have that life experience, instead of looking back at that time and thinking, oh, I spent that time wishing that I wasn't single.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like, I think people should also enjoy being a girlfriend. So, like, okay, you have somebody, but I think people are like, oh, well, you're this age. A year should be enough dating time. And it's like, no, let me just enjoy this transition time. Let me be a girlfriend for a little bit, see how that is. Because once I'm fiance, there's a wedding to plan, and then once the wedding's done, then I'm wife. So, like, just enjoying the stages of life. But then the last thing I want to say, just to speak to this, because I met Marlissa before she was engaged and married and everything. And she is so right. She always had it together. Listen, when she says buy a lip gloss, it's because she had, okay? Like everything she's saying, be cute, take care of yourself. Sis is well put together. So I just wanted to say, I can attest to that. It's real.
Yeah, you have to. You really do have to. And then I also say this too, like as far as like, don't relax your standards. Like, you know, people say, you know how revisit them, and don't relax them, because the right man will, and it's not even, I hate using the word standards. Like, what's another word we can use? Because, well, what you require. Standards and requirements. So when you meet a guy, there are certain things that you do require. You want to be respected. You want to, you want to have fun. You want them to be faithful, loyal, all of those things. Like you think of all of the traits that you need. So you tell them what you will require. So I'm going to give y'all an example. When I met DeMarcus, it's weird because I wasn't thinking about DeMarcus. When I tell you I was living my best life and loving me, I wasn't thinking about none of the guys in the room. We were at a sports party, and he came with another girl. So that lets you know anyway, I wasn't even checking for you. But we ended up meeting again at like a fight party. Somebody had a fight party and we were there. And he told me that I was just a joy to watch. Like he was like, you were laughing, you were talking to everybody. He kept saying, who is that girl over there? Like, I just want to know, like, I just want to know her name. Like, what she be doing? You know, where you hang out at? Because you seem like you have a good time wherever you go. And I'm like, oh yeah, I always have a good time. I ain't leaving my house if I'm not gonna have a good time. I'm gonna just stay at home. And so like even in meeting him, I remember he asked me. It was funny. I didn't even want to give him my number. They were like, you should talk to him. I don't want to talk to him. Like I just like, no, I don't want to talk to him. In my mind, I'm like, he's too short. He ain't 6'4". I need him to be tall. Like he ain't tall. No, they was like, he's taller than you. I'm like, yeah, but that ain't. Listen, I don't want to call him, and don't give him my number. But they gave him my number anyway, and
Look at God.
Right. He called. No, my friend, she made me promise that I would talk to him. And I said, I'll have a conversation with him. I'm not a mean person. And then I also have a lot of friends. So like once we talk and I don't see that it's working, you're gonna be my homie at the end of the day. And the first thing he asked me was, he said, what's your situation? That's how he asked me. What's your situation? I was like, well, excuse me, but hello, how you doing? I ain't doing that. I'm just watching TV. How was your day? Okay, good. What's my situation? Well, I'm not dating anybody, but I am dating. If I do date somebody, I want to get married and have a family. I ain't about the nonsense. So if you're trying to, when I tell you I hit him with the 1-2 juggler, I was like, I'm looking for somebody that wants to enjoy life with me, that want to do this, that, and the third. If this not something that you want, no pressure. Like don't feel like you got to talk to me because they told you to. Don't feel like you need to even get to know me because they told you to. He was like, dang, girl.
Listen, don't ask what my situation is if you
don't want to know. Like, I'm about to give the people what they want. You asked, and I'm going to give the people what they want. And he said from that moment on, he was like, I want to talk to her again. And we ended up talking for 4 hours. And from there, it was like we had been together ever since. And I told him, it was funny because I said, and don't be trying to date me for no 2-3 years. I'm not doing that. And surprisingly, everybody kept saying, you think he's gonna propose at your birthday? I'm like, no, we are just dating. I'm being a girlfriend. I'm just enjoying this relationship because it's so refreshing. And lo and behold, the whole time, I think he said around month 6, he had already started looking for.
I
and pop question. Yep.
I love that. No, that was one of my favorite videos. Seeing that proposal, I was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
So I had no idea. Girl, people had left the party and everything. They were like, wait, what happened? I'm like, I ain't had no shoes on. I'm like, y'all could at least let me get my edges together.
No, those are the best proposals. Mm-mm.
Oh my God, I was so embarrassed afterwards. I was just like, I look a hot mess. I'm jumping around the room dancing. I took my shoes off. My edges is up. I need to brush my edges. My nose greasy. I'm like, y'all just did not love me. And it was crazy, but it was a good time. It was. But I would say, like, don't relax your standards though, because the right guy is gonna look at you and he's not gonna back down to those things. Actually, DeMarcus said it was attractive because he was like, I want a woman of God. I want somebody that's gonna pray. And we went out one time and I was like, you're not gonna bless the food.
so we not gonna thank God for this meal.
We don't want to bless the hands that prepared this meal. Like, what's up? And he looked at me and was like, come on. Like he never backed down. And I was like, do you want to do it? He was like, can you do it? And it's funny because later I found out in our marriage counseling, he was intimidated to pray. And Smary, do you know that was one of my biggest fears at church, was praying out loud because I didn't want to say the wrong thing. And he later told me in marriage counseling, like, I don't really know. Like, I just used to say Jesus wept because that's kind of like what we was taught, or I just say, thank you, Lord, for this food. I ain't really know what to say. And so he said, the more I started doing, the more he got comfortable with doing it. So he does it now. Like now, anytime we go and eat, he'll be like, Tuka will stop and he'll bless the food. I'm like, look at my baby.
Oh man. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of the Girlfriends and Goals podcast. If you haven't subscribed already, please go ahead and do that now. And if you love what you heard, make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Also, our time together does not have to end here. You've heard our thoughts on this topic, but we'd love to hear yours as well. So make sure you follow us on Instagram at Girlfriends and Goals Podcast, where we'll continue this conversation throughout the next week. Until next time, bye.
Bye.
Bye.